Hello, welcome to Chat UTD. I thought it'd be interesting to rate the players that Erik ten Hag has signed. Um, there's a lot of arguments that say that ten Hag has got his type of players, that his recruitment's been really poor. I don't think that's all on him. I think a lot of that is on the club, but also just want to kind of break that down a little bit and get into the specifics of it. So there's a number of players that I'm going to kind of profile or give my opinion on in terms of how they've done for United. And then in the second half of the video, I want to try and dispel the myth, I think, that these players keep getting managers sacked, because I think it's a bit of a lazy argument. And if you break it down further, I think you'll find it needs to be challenged a bit more. So, as it's Saturday, all the best. Ugarte. Right, we'll go kind of in order with the signings. So Malacia, I'm going out of 10, by the way. It's going to have to be 3. Not necessarily because it's his fault as such, obviously, but he spent a year and a half, pretty much anyway, out injured. When he's played, I thought he's looked all right. He's divided the fan base a bit. I think some people thought he could be a really steady backup left back. I've heard other people kind of say, what are you on about? He's shit. I don't think he's shit. I've not seen enough of him, really. Sure, he played in the Liverpool game when we won 2-1, and I think he was pretty outstanding in that game, if I remember rightly. So, bit of an all-action type of left back, but again, we've not seen enough of him. So I'm giving him a 3 because he's barely played. Eriksen's probably a 6. I'd say when he first came in, it was really nice to have that calm, steady, and influence in the midfield. Someone who could get his foot on the ball, and at his best, Eriksen's like silk. Class player, uses the ball really intelligently. Everything just looks easy to Eriksen when he's on his game, when he's got time. The Barnsley game showcased that. That's Eriksen with time on the ball, and nowhere near as good as Carrick, but that Carricky type feel about him, that this guy's just so relaxed on the ball, just it comes so naturally to him. It's beautiful. And in the first season, I thought we saw quite a bit of that. There was a spell, wasn't there, I'm sure, when it was him, Casemiro and Bruno as a 3, and we didn't get beat for like 10 or 15 games whilst they were the 3 in the midfield. Every time they played together, they did really well. But then last season, just disappeared. I'm not sure if he was injured a lot last season, I don't know, but he just rarely played. And then when he did play, I thought he looked way off it. This season, he's played quite a bit, looks decent, but you can't be relying on Eriksen. He would be a squad player at best in a top 6 team, I think. But a class player, I think, a class player. Martinez, I love Martinez. I know he's not started this season particularly well, but I just think he's an absolutely brilliant player, and I love his influence on the team. I love his attitude. I love his shithousery. He's hard. He's dirty. He's so gets United. I think his determination is second to none. I think he's and beyond all that, I think he's a very, very good defender. But United's way of playing exposes probably weaknesses that he does have in his game, but exposes him. And I don't necessarily think that's all his fault. I think that's a system problem. In his first season, again, he did have quite a few injuries in his first seasons, but we missed him so much when he didn't play. I thought he was brilliant in his first season. Really top draw, especially with him and Varane together were brilliant. He'll be fine. I've no worry about him long term. I think he will be absolutely fine at United. And for me, if we were thinking about changing the captain, which I'm sure we're not, but if we were, he would be one of the first ones on the list if he can stay fit. The reason he's probably not got a higher mark is because he spent a whole season pretty much out injured. Casemiro, this is a difficult one. I'm going to go 6 with Casemiro. His first season, he was very, very good. But probably looked even better than he was because we've been starved of that presence in the midfield for so long. We haven't had a midfielder like him for so long, and in that first season, we very quickly became very reliant on him. We looked at a completely different team when he didn't play. People forget, don't they? Got short memories now. We're all like, don't play Casemiro. Jesus, he's a liability. That I wouldn't necessarily say that, but that's the kind of the narrative around him now. But people forget in his first season, if he didn't play, we were all like, what are we going to do without Casemiro? I remember we played Palace away and then Arsenal away in quick succession in the late winter, early spring of Ten Hag's first season, and he was one booking away from missing the Arsenal game if he got booked against Crystal Palace, and he did. And I remember everyone going, what are we going to do? How are we going to cope without him? We ended up losing the Arsenal game. But that brings me to one of the issues with him. He's so ill-disciplined. Like that game against Palace, I think he got booked in the 80th minute. It's like you've played the majority of the game, mate. We need you in the next match. And I remember the booking being so stupid, so unnecessary. He just nailed someone, but for no reason really, to no benefit of the team. And yeah, I think his discipline's appalling. His book, I'd love to know how many bookings he's got at United. It'd be horrendous. But you'll get your goal. Obviously, has been an absolute Rolls Royce of a player in his past, and I still think he can probably do a job for United. I think he probably should have gone in the summer. Really, if we're looking to offload players on big wages that are older, surely he ticks that box. I think the drop-off last season was quite alarming. This season we'll see whether that was a permanent thing or whether he perhaps just had a bad spell. The system United play and how exposed he is probably doesn't help him. So, what did I say, 6? Yeah, 6 for him. Anthony, oh, Jesus. Oh man, I don't want to go in on someone, but I'm going to give Anthony a 4. I maintain there's a player in Anthony. I really do, because I've seen him at Ajax, and I've seen what he can do for Brazil, and I've seen him when he's confident and when he's at his best. And there's definitely a player there. He looks a really poorly coached player, and I'm not making excuses for him, but he does the same thing every time he gets the ball, pretty much. Now, as a coach, surely you have to speak to him about that, and you have to try and help him to find different ways of getting around his fullback, or different sides to his game, or different starting positions, or just something different. I've said this many times before. We lost the art of coaching at high level football. You look at Guardiola, you can tell he coaches his team. I think he gets players and drags them to where he wants to get them, to where he's trying to show them about a position or something like that. In training, he's the type that'll just grab them and say, this is where I want you stood, and you would be touch tight here. And you can, I can't stand the Guardiola, but you can see him doing all that. And I look at our team and I think, you don't look like anyone's even spoken to you about what you should or shouldn't be doing. And Anthony's a prime example of that. Again, short memories. When he came into the team, he scored 3 goals in his first 3 games. I remember him scoring at home to Arsenal. And he had a really decent first season, I think. Not everyone's cup of tea, but I think he had a decent first season. And then last year there was all that hoo-ha about his ex-missus and loads of stuff going on like that. And people just think, yeah, but you paid to play football. Yeah, but, I don't know. I don't want to give him loads of excuses, but that's not easy to go through all that he was going through there. And I always think with Anthony, a lot of people don't like him and think he's petulant and such, but I always think he wants to do well. I think that when you watch him, I think he understands United. I think he knows he's got an opportunity to do something that he's never going to get the opportunity to do again. He's not helped by the price tag. The price tag's astronomical, but that's not his fault. He didn't ask for the price tag, did he? That's United's incompetence. That's Glazer incompetence, again, like so many other things. So, a 4 for me. Mason Mount. Do you know what? Anthony gets pelters and Mason Mount for me. I don't want to hang the lad out to dry. But for me, Mason Mount's one of the worst and most bizarre signings in recent history for Man United. At a time when we didn't have a lot of money to spend, and we desperately needed a Grade 1 striker in the summer that we got Mount, we've bought a player who we don't need a player of his profile. He'd been poor for Chelsea for a year and a half. He had a terrible injury record the season before we bought him. He was in the last year of his contract and we paid 50 million quid with add-ons. We spunked a quarter of our budget that summer on Mason Mount. And again, the proof's in the pudding, isn't it? It hasn't worked. It's an absolutely shocking signing. And I'm going to give him 2. And I'm not necessarily saying that's all his fault. He can't stay fit. I've seen very little of him that makes me go, oh, I wish he was fit when I see him play. He's decent, he's all right. He ain't any better than that. In terms of the impact he's had, he's 2 out of 10. Terrible signing. Johnny. Our Johnny. Johnny Evans. I'm going to go 7. I think I nearly went 8. I think he's a 7. He's been a very good signing. But the fact we've had to sign him and the fact that it happened, in some ways it's opportunist. I think if you're a team that's winning titles, like in Ferguson's era, remember when Ferguson got Henrik Larsson? No one called us cheapskates then. No one said, "What United do? It's not amateur hour. Why are they getting Larsson from Helsingborg? He's finished." And you watch him; he came in for a few months, a few weeks even, I think, and he was just mint. I loved Larsson, and he'd given his word that he was going to go back to Helsingborg, and you could see so desperately wanted to stay at United, but he'd given his word, so he did. What a guy! But that was when United were. It was okay for Ferguson to do stuff like that. Does anyone remember William Prunier? He brought in. He was a centre back in the mid-90s, who I think Eric knew, and he brought him in. I think he was on a free transfer. Didn't have a club. He had one really good. I was there. He had a really good game against QPR. I think he scored, or he's certainly involved in the goal. And then we played away at Spurs. Oh my word, he got absolutely done. Chris Armstrong was playing up front for Spurs and they won 4-1 and he was shocking and he was never to be seen again. So Ferguson did have that in him where he'd get, a guy would come and train with you and it's like all of a sudden he's in the team. Scholes are coming out of retirement. So it's not the first time it's happened with someone like Evans coming back, doing his coaching badges. Actually, can you give us a year, Johnny? But it is indicative of the club not having the money they need to go and get a centre back that would be younger and of more of a profile of what we want. But you can't fault him. He's been tremendous. I think Johnny Evans, his attitude's brilliant. The way he carries himself. Last week after Villa, he got man of the match, and the person doing the interview said to him, I know when there's been good times here, there's no better feeling than pulling on the shirt. And he interrupted the guy and said, there still isn't a better feeling than pulling on the shirt. And I got goosebumps when he said it. And you think, we've got a team full of chances here, really, in modern football. That's really unfair, actually. We haven't got a team full of chances, but there's too many chances. There's too many bluffers in our squad. And you've got this guy. He gets it. I just wish he was a bit younger. But what a good influence to have around the place. And he never lets you down. Brilliant. Onana, 6. The things I was looking forward to, he hasn't really had the players around him to do, as in almost like be a distributor of the ball and be a quarterback. If Rashford ran, I think we'd get loads of. Well, we wouldn't get loads of goals because teams would wise up to it, but teams would have to go a lot further back and a lot deeper to stop Rashford from being able to get in behind, because Onana's quality with those diagonal passes is absolutely brilliant. But Rashford never runs, so you hardly ever get it. I still don't think we've got the players around him to build that from the back like we got him in to do. His shot stopping isn't very good. As I've said before, if anything is outside of his wingspan, he's not brilliant. He doesn't get down to balls very well. I don't think he's particularly commanding in his box. His starting position often isn't good. I don't think he's great with in terms of he doesn't move his feet very well. But I'd give him 6 because of the volume of work he's had to do, and he has made some very good saves. So maybe he's a touch lucky to get a 6, but I'm going to give him a 6. Rasmus, I'd say 6. Seems to pick up quite a few injuries, but I like him. I think he's a good player in the making. Too much money and too much pressure on his shoulders last season. Got on a bit of a streak. What did he score in the end in all competitions? Was it something like 15? Something like that? That's not a bad return. I'm sure it was something along those lines. Is he going to get you 25, 30? I wouldn't rule it out, but right now I'd say probably not. Difficult not to like him. Very, very enthusiastic. Supported United as a kid. Always comes on and puts a shift in. I'd be worried about the likes of Rashford around Rasmus, because I would want to keep them two as far apart as possible, because Rasmus seems quite a grounded lad, and I think he needs to stay that way because he's not made it, and I don't want him thinking he has. So this is one of the issues we've got, which I'm going to come back to later, about these key influences in the squad, these big profile players who are on astronomical wages, and new players come in and I think can be sucked into this mediocrity, and basically we've been given all this for nothing. We've been given all this, we ain't done anything to earn it, and I worry a little bit about that with Rasmus. So 6 out of 10 for me. Altai, the goalkeeper, he's barely played, so I don't even know why I've included him. I'm not going to give him a rating. And then the other players are new players. So Xerxes, Yoro, Mazraoui, Matthijs de Ligt and Ugarte. It's too early to rate them. So let me know what you think about that. You've not got many, have you, that where you're thinking they're there? Well, the highest was 7, and that was Martinez. Not saying I'm right, by the way. Other people might disagree. The lowest was 2 with Mount. Oh yeah, Evans was 7 as well, wasn't he? They've not been great, those signings. That's not all on Ten Hag, by the way. I'm just looking at who he's had, really, who's come in, and how good have they been. You know, people spoke about how much money he's spent. It's a lot, isn't it? You know, is it? Am I right in thinking, is it 600 million quid he's had? And when you read those names out, you're thinking, there's a lot of players, but you're like, you're not getting a lot of bang for your buck there, are you? But that's on United. That's not necessarily Ten Hag. I've not included loans like Sabitzer and Amrabat and the like, because I just and Wout Weghorst and stuff like that, because I don't know, they're not permanent signings, so I haven't included them. So moving on, I've noticed in the last couple of weeks when people have been talking about Ten Hag's job, I keep hearing this line: these players will continue to get managers sacked. These players have done it for years and years and years. And it's a myth, because the only players in that squad that have been there for more than one manager are Luke Shaw, Rashford, Dalot, Maguire, Fernandes and Lindelof. Luke Shaw never plays because he's not fit. So he's always injured, so I don't know how much of an influence that he would have. I think he'd probably be training separately to everybody else, so I don't think he would be like a toxic influence around Old Trafford and around Carrington. Maguire, whilst being not good enough in my opinion, I don't think would be a problem around the dressing room. Lindelof just strikes me as a really sound guy who's probably won the lottery playing for Man United, but he never lets you down, I don't think. Well, he never purposely lets you down. He's certainly not the type that's going to be a problem, unless I've completely misread him. Fernandez is the captain. Is he petulant? Yeah. Does he demand a lot? Is he whinge? Yep. Yep. Yes and yes for those two. Um, does he set high standards though? Yeah. Does he score goals? Yeah. Does he assist goals? Yeah. Does he back it up? Yeah. He hasn't done at the start of this season, and he didn't play brilliantly at the end of last season. But look at the FA Cup final. Look at the no look pass to Mainu, and look at his performance in that game. And Fernandez is a top football player, and I don't think would have a toxic influence on the dressing room personally. Dallo, Dallo's not the type that I don't think Dallo's as good as everybody said he was at the end of last season, but I don't think Dallo's the type to cause a big problem amongst the dressing room. I think he's a well, actually, we heard from Benny McCarthy, didn't we, that if everyone trained like Dallo and Fernandez, then the team would be okay. So, yeah, I think Dallo's fine. So I don't want to put it all on one person, but it leaves you with Rashford. And if I had to guess out of all those people who might cause a problem or who might be quite a toxic influence in the dressing room based on their body language, based on the vibe I get off them, then it would be him. So I've said it many times before. You've set a culture as a club where your your highest paid player has got the worst body language in the squad, applies himself the least of anybody in the squad, and isn't a particularly good player, and plays every single week. So that then, as a culture, like I just mentioned before, Rasmus comes in, or any of these players that I just mentioned before that have come in. It's a culture that's not. It's not elite. That's the word that Ineos have kind of banded about as what they're trying to aim towards. This isn't it. It's not elite. So then subsequently, I'll give you an example of Xerxes. Xerxes comes in and looks like he couldn't trap a bag of cement. Looks like he's, for me, when I've seen him play, if I had to give him a rating right now, out of 10, which would be hideously unfair, but if I had to, I'd say 2 or 3 out of 10. But you watch him for Holland, and Holland played Hungary last night. Hungary aren't a bad team at all, and he was brilliant. He's playing in the position that he probably should play, which is just behind the main forward. He feels comfortable. He's with his compatriots, and you're like, yeah, there's a player there. Like we saw, was it Southampton when he played? When he linked the play really nicely. I think it was. But you watch him for United and he looks lost, but he's not on his own, is he? You look at a lot of those other players which are, I've rated harshly. Anthony, Casemiro last season, and probably moving forward. These are players that elsewhere have been very good players, and they come to United and it doesn't work, and it's not new news, is it? So, but I think nonetheless it's a bit of a lazy throwaway that people say these players have got loads of managers sacked. They haven't. Luke Shaw, Dallo, Fernandez, Maguire, and Lindelof haven't got managers sacked. Certainly not by design. They might have done because they're not good enough. But the only one out of that list would be Rashford. So I just want to pick up on that and say that, people, I've said it myself, I've actually fallen into the trap, and I questioned myself a couple of weeks ago because I found myself almost saying it on here about the clear out that needed to happen. And I had to reframe it and say, but there's still political figures. I don't know if anyone remembers me saying it. And I said figures. I should have said figure, singular, because it's Rashford. It's going to come to the point where he'll be the only one left. And in 2 or 3 years' time, when we've gone through another however many other managers, and people will be saying again, oh, these players get managers sacked. And he'll be the only one. He'll be the only common denominator. So the truth of the matter comes back to, by the way, Marcus Rashford isn't single-handedly getting managers sacked. That's not what I'm saying here. I'm just saying of the people that have been there for more than one manager, he's the one that I would say lacks application and lacks effort and can't be asked when things start going wrong. We can't be asked when things are going well. But it brings me back to something I said last week. I did quite a few videos last week about the Ten Hag situation, and as I said in my last one, there's no point in continuing to talk about it. It's pointless. Ineos will decide when they decide, and it's so frustrating knowing that you're right, knowing that he needs to go, and knowing that in 2 or 3 months' time he will, and the season will be over. But that's what's going on at the moment. But as I said, the players have been a big problem down the years at United. They really have. And there's been some characters we should never have gone near. And Pogba, Sanchez, Sancho are three that spring straight to my mind. But they're not there now, and they haven't been there for quite some time. And we also have to look at, as I've said, we haven't had very good managers. The managers that United have picked haven't been very good. And Ten Hag is starting to fall into that category as well. So the next thing that Ineos do is going to be massively important, in that they're going to have to pick a manager that they want, that fits their criteria, that fits their ethos. That's massively important. Whether we agree with what they do or not, they have to do that. They have to be true to themselves. They have to have conviction in that. But they've got to pick someone that, you know, the fans can go, oh, nice one, we've got him. He's going to be all right. He'll do all right for us, him. He might not, but gives you that feeling that, oh, I see what you're doing there. Nice one. And I've not had that. I've not had that once since Ferguson left. So players have been a big problem down the years, but this group of players, as I've just unpicked there, whilst not being great, nowhere near good enough, really. I'm not looking at loads of them and thinking, bad egg, toxic, poor trainer. I'm not thinking that. I might be wrong, but I'm not thinking that about loads of them. And as I said, there's 6 there that have played for more than one manager. There's only one of them that stands out to me. So there we go. Happy Saturday, everyone. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Put your own ratings. Tell me if you think the players are a problem. And as always, Glazers out.